Question. DS. A geometric sequence g of n has the property that g of n plus 1 equals 2 times g of n, where n are positive integers. What is the value of g of 7? Condition 1. G of 1 equals 1. Condition 2. G of 6 minus g of 4 equals 24. Solution. Let's solve this DS question using the variable approach. DS questions based on geometric sequences. Here we have three variables: g of n plus 1, g of n, and r, and one equation: g of n plus 1 equals r times of whole g of n. The two conditions are likely to give us two more equations, resulting in equal number of equations and variables, so the most likely answer is C. Let's apply 3 steps of variable approach. Let's follow the first step of the variable approach by modifying and rechecking the original condition and the question. We are looking for the value of the 7th term of the geometric sequence g of n. G of 2 equals 2 times g of 1. G of 3 equals 2 times g of 2 equals 2 times whole of 2 times g of 1 equals 2 squared times of whole g of 1. So g of 4 equals 2 times g of 3 equals 2 times whole of 2 squared times g of 1 equals 2 cubed whole times g of 1. G of 5 equals 2 times g of 4 equals 2 times whole of 2 cubed times g of 1 equals 2 to the power of 4 whole times g of 1. G of 6 equals 2 times g of 5 equals 2 times 2 to the 4th power whole times g of 1 equals 2 to the power of 5 whole times g of 1, and so on. So g of n equals 2 to the power of n minus 1 whole times g of 1, and g of 7 equals 2 to the power of 6 whole times g of 1. Follow the second and third steps. From the original condition, we have one variable, g of 1. To match the number of variables with the number of equations, we need one more equation. Since conditions 1 and 2 will provide one equation each, it's about 60% likely that D would be the answer. Recall 3 principles and choose D as the most likely answer. Let's take a look at each condition. Condition 1 tells us that g of 1 equals 1. Then g of 7 equals 2 to the power of 6 times g of 1 equals 2 to the power of 6 times 1 equals 2 to the power of 6. So the answer is unique, and the condition is sufficient by CMT2, which states that the number of answers must be 1. Condition 2 tells us that g of 6 minus g of 4 equals 24. Then 2 to the 5th power times g of 1 minus 2 to the 3rd power times g of 1 equals 32 times g of 1 minus 8 times g of 1 equals 24 times g of 1. And 24 times g of 1 equals 24. We get g of 1 equals 1. Therefore, g of 7 equals 2 to the 6th power times g of 1 equals 2 to the 6th power times 1 equals 2 to the 6th power. So the answer is unique, and the condition is sufficient by CMT2, which states that the number of answers must be 1. Also, according to tip 1, it is about 95% likely that D would be the answer when the value of condition 1 is equal to the value of condition 2. Each condition alone is sufficient. Thus, D is the correct answer. Answer D.